What if the reason your manifestations feel delayed is not because they aren't real, but because your frequency keeps hesitating? You know the teachings. You know about the law, about vibration, about assumption. You've felt glimpses of your power, moments when reality bent to your belief, when signs aligned, when something clicked inside. But somehow it doesn't stay. The alignment flickers. The results come in waves, not rivers. You visualize, you affirm, you intend. But deep down, a quiet part of you whispers, why does it still feel so far? You're not wrong. You're not broken. You're not missing anything. You're just still trying to command reality from the wrong seat, from desire instead of identity. And identity is not a thought. It's a frequency that lives in your breath, in your posture, in the way your nervous system responds when no one is watching. You may be imagining with your mind, but your body is still living in the past. Neville said, imagination creates reality, but not when imagination is a wish, not when it's a fantasy you visit once a day and abandon the moment the phone rings. Reality responds not to what you fantasize, but to the state you live in. A state is not a mood, it's not a positive thought. A state is a frequency signature, a pattern of being felt over and over, until the universe has no choice but to reflect it. And here's where neuroscience meets mysticism. Dr. Joe Dispenza revealed what ancient mystics always knew. The brain doesn't distinguish between what's imagined with intensity and what's lived in physical experience. The moment you feel it, really feel it, your nervous system wires it as real. Your inner circuitry doesn't wait for proof. It follows feeling. It builds reality from repetition. And that's what most people miss. They visualize as the old self. They affirm with a tight chest. They speak abundance with a clenched jaw. And without realizing it, they remain the hoping self, not the having self. They imagine, yes, but they don't shift. They don't drop into the identity that already knows. And without identity, intention is just noise. Manifestation on command is not about force. It's not about obsessing, pushing, or timing. It's about coherence. Neural coherence, emotional coherence, assumptive coherence. When your thoughts, feelings, and body posture say the same thing, the universe listens. When your imagination is not a visitor but a home, the world obeys. You're not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for your frequency to stabilize. Imagine this. Your imagination is the command center. Every time you feel the wish fulfilled, you press a button. Every time you doubt, you cancel the order. Your reality isn't ignoring you. It's following the last command it received. If you speak with conviction, life salutes. If you whisper with fear, life pauses. Not because it's punishing you, but because it's listening. Always listening. So today, you're not here to learn more. You're here to remember that you are the one issuing the command, and reality has no power to disobey. There's a silence between wanting and having that most never learn to cross. It's the silence where many get lost, repeating affirmations, searching for signs, questioning the sky, but nothing answers, and so they try harder, speak louder, beg more sincerely. But manifestation doesn't respond to effort. It responds to authority, and authority doesn't scream. The truth is, you cannot command from uncertainty. You cannot instruct life to follow your lead if your frequency still trembles with doubt. Our command, real command, only works when it comes from identity, not desire. Wanting carries hesitation. Being carries power. The universe doesn't move because you want something. It moves because you are something, because you've embodied the version of you who has already received. Neville never taught us to chase what we want. He taught us to assume what we already are. He said, "You do not command what you want, you assume what you are." That's not a poetic phrase, it's a blueprint. And if you truly understand it, you realize you're not trying to become someone else. You're stripping away every lie that says you're not already that person. Psychology calls it authority bias. We respond most to the voice that carries conviction, not volume. And so does reality. It doesn't mirror your words, it mirrors the energy beneath them. If you affirm abundance while carrying the energy of fear, lack answers. If you visualize success while embodying insecurity, delay becomes your reflection. But the moment you speak from identity, even in silence, the field adjusts. So how do you return to that authority within? Not by pushing, not by pretending, but by posturing. Yes, physically. Embodiment is the language of the subconscious. Before you imagine, before you affirm, before you ask, pause. Let your breath settle. Straighten your spine. Drop your shoulders. Let the version of you who knows stand up in your body. Let your body remember what your mind forgot. There is a kind of presence that needs no proof. And from that presence, a whisper becomes a command. Because a whisper from the throne carries more power than a scream from the crowd. You are that throne. You are the one reality listens to, not when you beg, but when you embody. There's a moment in every journey of conscious creation when you realize the image is not enough. You see it so clearly. The dream life, the relationship, the freedom. You've built it in your mind 1,000 times, and yet it remains a movie playing behind your eyes, never quite stepping into the world. That's because visualization without embodiment is like sending a letter with no address. It floats in the field, beautiful, detailed, full of intention, but it never lands. It never roots. And the reason is simple. Without emotion, the image remains fiction. The body never receives the signal. The subconscious never rewires. And reality, ever faithful to your inner state, continues to echo the same. Dr. Joe Dispenza taught us this truth with clarity. Feeling plus intention is what generates a real electromagnetic signature. It's not what you think alone. It's what you feel while thinking. It's what vibrates through your nervous system, what spills into your breath, what tingles in your skin. That is the language the field understands. That is how creation responds. Modern neuroscience confirms it. When emotion is missing, the prefrontal cortex, the center of imagination and planning, doesn't encode the visualization as a real memory. It treats it as entertainment, as fantasy. But when you engage your senses, when you flood the vision with feeling, your brain begins to believe. And if your brain believes, your body follows. If your body follows, reality shifts, because you've changed the signal at the source. So instead of imagining your dream as something distant, try this. Remember it. Yes, sir, remember it, as if it already happened, as if you're pulling it from a lived timeline. Feel the sound of it, the texture, the scent in the air, the expression on your face as you sit inside the experience, not as a guest, but as its rightful owner. There is no need to strain. Just allow the senses to carry you home. What does it look like when your account is full, not for the first time, but as if it's always been that way? What do your hands do when they are used to holding success? How does your chest feel when love is not a wish, but a presence you wake up next to? You cannot download the program by staring at the screen. You must press install. You must bring the image from the clouds of thought into the electricity of sensation. When the body feels it, the reality of it is no longer optional. It becomes inevitable. Because you're not watching your desire anymore, you're wearing it. And that changes everything. There's a difference between trying to get into the state and remembering that you never left. This is the subtle dissonance that separates temporary change from lasting transformation. Most people approach manifestation as a climb, a step-by-step journey toward becoming. But in truth, the shift is not upward. It's inward. It's not an effort to construct. It's a permission to recognize. You are not far from what you desire. You are only entangled with a version of yourself that forgot it was already done. You don't become the one who has it. You stop pretending you're not. And that's the miracle. Not a change in circumstance, but a change in recognition. Neville said it simply: you are already that which you want to be. The rest is acceptance. The rest is remembrance. In psychology, this is known as identity priming. Your mind doesn't operate from logic. It operates from context. If you place yourself in the context of lack, your behaviors, decisions, even your posture align with that signal. But if you prime yourself with the identity of already having, your body calibrates. Your choices reflect abundance, and the world follows suit. This is not about faking it. It's about flipping the switch. The identity already exists within you. The emotional code is already embedded. You just need to trigger it. Sometimes it's a breath, sometimes a gesture, sometimes a phrase that anchors you to the fulfilled version of yourself, the one who no longer hopes but lives. Feel it now, not in thought, in breath, in the stillness beneath your ribs. Maybe your phrase is simple. It's already mine. Maybe your gesture is subtle. A hand on your heart, a closing of the eyes, a lift of the chin. Whatever it is, let it mark the shift. Let it become the bridge between timelines, not as magic but as muscle memory. You do not have to light the fire. The fire has always been there. You only need to remember where the switch is, not in the future, not in the effort, but here, now, in this breath, in this stillness, in this sacred remembering. You don't build the light, you flip the switch, and when you do, what once felt distant becomes home. If this is resonating, if some part of you is remembering who you really are, subscribe now, because this isn't just content, it's alignment, and you're ready to live from the center. Manifestation doesn't begin with magic, it begins with memory. The kind of memory your body carries even when your mind forgets. You're not trying to convince the universe of something new. You're training your nervous system to feel safe in what is already yours, and safety is the seed of manifestation. Repetition is not just a habit, it is a biological ritual. It is how the brain learns what to believe, what to allow, and what to attract. Every time you revisit the end state, not as a distant hope, but as a living sensation, you are building a new neural pathway. You are teaching your subconscious that the unfamiliar is now familiar, that the extraordinary is now normal. Dr. Joe Dispenza has shown us this with clarity. Mental rehearsal of the future, done with emotion and precision, creates real, measurable neurological changes. The brain fires as if the event already happened, and if it fires together, it wires together. This is Hebb's law. The more you repeat a pattern, the more it becomes your default. Not just mentally, but chemically, energetically. You don't just think wealth, you become someone to whom wealth is natural. But here's the secret most overlook. It's not about duration, it's about depth. You don't need hours of effort, you need moments of full immersion, moments when your body surrenders to the frequency of fulfillment. When your nervous system exhales as if the desire is already here, already safe, already integrated. So let each morning become your sacred moment. Not a performance, but a homecoming. Give yourself just 90 seconds, not to beg, not to ask, but to remember. To sit in the feeling of already having, to breathe from the end, to let your cells absorb the truth before your eyes ever see it, because repetition isn't just how the brain learns, it's how the universe listens. The field doesn't respond to one loud shout, it responds to the quiet, steady rhythm of identity, spoken again and again, until the signal becomes unshakable. A river doesn't change course overnight. It carves its way through stone, slowly, consistently, with presence, and so do you. Each time you rehearse the end with feeling, you become a little more of who you truly are. Until there's nothing left to manifest, only the reality that flows from your alignment. Intensity is not power. It's often just fear in disguise. The fear that if you don't feel it hard enough, it won't come. That if you don't believe it with enough fire, the universe won't hear you. But real power doesn't shout. It doesn't clench. It doesn't chase. It knows. There's a kind of calm that is louder than any affirmation. A stillness that vibrates with certainty, even in silence. That stillness is not weakness. It's sovereignty. It's the energetic signature of someone who no longer negotiates with their vision, who no longer waits for signs to confirm what they already feel as true. Neville understood this when he said, "Quiet confidence is the surest sign of possession. When you already have something, you don't perform, you don't prove, you don't plead, you relax. Your breath deepens, your energy settles, and in that inner settling, you emit the clearest signal. It is done." Psychologically, this calm is coherence. Biologically, it is regulation. When your arousal is high, when you are anxious, desperate, striving, your body signals uncertainty, and that signal is exactly what the universe reflects. But when your body enters stillness, when your breath slows, when your nervous system feels safe, your energy says, "I already have, I already am." So the power is not in trying harder, it's in softening deeper. You don't manifest faster by pushing, you manifest more clearly by aligning, and alignment begins with the body, with the breath, with that sacred pause between stimulus and response, where your true signal lives. This is the posture of the one who commands, not because they dominate the field, but because they are fused with it. They no longer wait for evidence, they have become the evidence. The lion doesn't roar to prove it's king. It just walks through the savannah, and everything around it responds. You are not here to roar. You are here to walk as if it's already yours. And when you do, the world, silently, inevitably, shifts. There's a trap hidden inside the journey of conscious creation, and it looks like progress. It feels like momentum. You begin to see signs, feel synchronicities, sense the energy moving. And yet, instead of relaxing into the fulfilled state, you start chasing the very signs meant to reflect your alignment. You become addicted to the feeling of almost there, unknowingly feeding the very signal that says, it's not here yet. This is the dopamine loop, the neurological craving for reward without resolution. It tricks you into believing that anticipation is achievement, that seeing 11:11 means you're closer, that one more sign, one more confirmation, one more validation from the outside will finally unlock the inside. But the more you chase proof, the more you reaffirm the absence. The more you measure progress, the more you slow the arrival. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks to this directly. He explains how the body becomes addicted to familiar emotions, including the chemical high of waiting, of seeking, of needing reassurance. And when your body is addicted to anticipation, it will unconsciously resist arrival, because arrival means the end of the chase, the end of the chemical hit, the end of the identity built around pursuit. This is why manifestation often stalls, not because the vision is too big, but because your nervous system is too addicted to the process of becoming. It's still calibrated to the seeker, not the receiver, still vibrating with the tension of almost instead of the peace of already. So the shift is subtle, but it is sacred. You stop measuring time, you stop scanning for signs, you stop asking, when will it come, and begin feeling, how does it feel now that it's done? That shift, from longing to living, from countdown to completion, is where manifestation truly begins. Because a commander does not follow the army into the field to check if the order was obeyed. He issues the command, then rests in certainty. Not because he sees the outcome, but because he knows the signal was clear. You are that commander, and every time you resist the urge to chase evidence, you affirm your power. You confirm your identity. You move out of addiction and into alignment. And in that alignment, manifestation becomes not a question, but a consequence. Inside you there is a command center, not made of control panels or flashing lights, but of something far more powerful: alignment. The moment your thoughts, emotions, and identity speak the same language, the universe receives a signal so coherent it must respond. But for most, this center remains fragmented. One part wants, another part doubts, one part visualizes, another fears it's just pretend, and in that inner dissonance the signal distorts. You may speak abundance, but if your breath is shallow, your posture collapsed, your emotion tinged with lack, then the message is scrambled. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because your frequency is split, and reality, ever loyal, mirrors back the confusion. This isn't punishment, it's reflection, a quiet invitation to come into inner agreement. Neville once wrote, "The subconscious accepts as true that which the conscious mind feels to be true. Not what you say is true, what you feel to be true." The subconscious doesn't respond to affirmations alone. It responds to coherence, to the full-body yes that happens when thought, emotion, and embodiment unite. Science confirms this. When your limbic system, which governs emotion, and your prefrontal cortex, which governs vision and planning, synchronize, you become neurologically magnetic. Your brain and heart pulse together. Your body relaxes into congruence, and from that inner resonance, reality bends. So take a moment, not to wish, but to align. What thought are you holding? I am abundant. What emotion rises with it? Gratitude. What does your body do? It softens, your jaw releases, your spine elongates, your breath deepens. That is coherence. That is command. That is the language creation obeys. Because manifestation isn't born from a single thought. It's born from an inner choir singing in harmony. One voice, one feeling, one posture. And when those elements converge, they become unstoppable. You cannot launch a rocket if the ground crew and the pilot are using different coordinates. But when every part of you, the mind, the mood, the body, agrees on the destination, then launch becomes effortless, and your desire, no longer divided, finds its way into form, not by force but by frequency, not by trying, but by tuning. Letting go is not giving up. It's the highest form of belief. It is the silent language of those who know that manifestation is not seduced by effort, but by ease. And yet, this is where many stumble, because detachment feels like indifference, but it's not. Detachment is not the absence of desire. It's the presence of certainty. There's a moment in every creative process where the energy must shift, from focus to flow, from creation to trust, from imagining to allowing. And that shift is often resisted because the mind fears that if it stops holding on, it will lose what it's created. But the opposite is true. The tighter you grip, the more you signal disbelief. The more you release, the more you affirm it is done. Neville gave us the simplest, most profound instruction. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not fall asleep worried. Not fall asleep planning. Fall asleep as if the prayer is already answered. Because that feeling, the feeling of completion, is the proof the subconscious accepts. It says, this is normal now. This is who I am. Psychology calls it the paradox of control. The more you try to dominate an outcome, the less influence you actually have. The body tightens, the mind races, the signal scatters. But when you rest in the end, when you surrender the timing, the method, the logic, the field opens. Because your energy says, I no longer need it to happen. I've already become the one who has it. This is the inversion most never understand. That detachment is not passive. It is powerful. It is an act of sacred authority. You're not ignoring the desire. You're walking as if it's fulfilled. And in that walk, the universe reorganizes, not to convince you, but to catch up with what you've already claimed. So the next time you finish a session of assumption, a moment of inner creation, end it with a quiet sentence that seals the circuit. It is done. It's normal now. Say it not with urgency, but with peace, with finality, with the knowing of someone who no longer waits, because a boomerang only returns when you release it. The act of letting go is not an afterthought. It is the command itself, spoken in stillness, backed by faith, and received by a reality that has no choice but to answer. Reality does not delay. It reflects. It does not withhold. It calibrates. The outer world is not judging your worth. It's measuring your signal. Every experience, every moment of not yet, is not a punishment. It's a mirror, showing you what still lives inside, not to shame you, to awaken you. Neville wrote, "The outer world is a mirror reflecting your inner state." This is not metaphorical, it is literal. Your environment, your results, your relationships, all of them are echoing the assumption you carry most consistently. Not the one you affirm on paper, the one you embody when no one is watching, the one you feel when you're not trying to feel anything at all. Quantum physics calls this the collapse of the wave. Potential becomes form the moment it is observed with certainty, not with hope, not with desperation, but with a frequency that says, this is real now. That is the moment reality takes shape, not because the universe finally agreed, but because you finally did. And here lies the hidden power. Your job is not to force reality to respond faster. Your job is to remain so internally stabilized that the mirror has no choice but to catch up. It's not a race, it's a reflection. The more you trust the delay, the faster it dissolves. The more you interpret waiting as alignment, not absence, the sooner the form arrives. So shift your observation. When things seem still, don't ask, why hasn't it come? Ask, what is this moment showing me about my dominant assumption? Look at the echo, not to judge it, but to fine-tune your frequency. Every delay is feedback. Every silence is recalibration. Every pause is an invitation to deepen your embodiment. You don't rush an echo by shouting louder. You hear it when you stop talking. When you listen, when you let the stillness speak back to you. Reality is not ignoring you, it is adjusting to the tone you've chosen as truth. And when your tone becomes unwavering, when your assumption no longer needs validation, the mirror becomes clear. Not because you earned it, because you aligned with it. And what you've assumed, quietly and consistently, becomes the world you wake up in. Not someday, but now. Manifesting on command is not a gift reserved for the few. It's not a talent. It's not a miracle. It's a skill. A frequency that becomes stable through repetition, just like learning an instrument or speaking a language. And yet, most people treat it like luck. They wait for alignment instead of training it. They wait for belief instead of conditioning it. But waiting never builds certainty. Practice does. Neville wrote, "Persist, and it will harden into fact." Those words are the foundation of every transformation. Because the truth is, nothing becomes automatic without persistence. The identity you long for, the version of you who lives as if it's already done, must be practiced until it feels more familiar than your doubt, until it stops being a performance and becomes your posture. This is not about forcing belief, it's about creating emotional pathways so well-worn, so lived in, that your body begins to respond before the mind has time to doubt. Neuroscience confirms this. Repetition stabilizes neural networks. It rewires the nervous system to accept new truths as baseline. You stop reacting to life as the old self. You start responding as the one who already has. And like any form of mastery, this shift is built in moments, not in epiphanies. You train your inner state the same way a pianist trains his hands, not by hoping, by returning, daily, deliberately, devotionally. Let this be your spiritual rhythm. Twice a day, even for just a minute, close the loop. Step into the end, not with effort, but with embodiment. Let the version of you who already lives the life you desire breathe through your skin, speak through your voice, walk through your day. You're not trying to impress the universe, you're teaching your nervous system to stop rejecting what you've claimed as true. And every time you do, the space between imagination and reality shrinks. Not because the world changed, but because you did. A master pianist doesn't think of the keys, he simply plays, because the song is no longer an idea. It's a memory living in the muscles. That's what manifestation on command becomes. A memory of the soul, remembered so often. It becomes the world around you. There is a point in the journey where everything shifts. Not because the world outside you changes, but because you finally stop waiting for it to do so. You stop watching the door. You stop looking for signs. You stop negotiating with your worth. And in that still, quiet moment, you remember, the power you thought was distant has always been yours to issue. You were never meant to chase your reality like a stranger looking in. You were meant to embody it, to move through life with the unshakable knowing that what you are assuming is already forming. Neville Goddard called it the world pushed out. Not a metaphor, a law. Your world is not some chaotic accident of fate. It is the crystallization of your most consistent inner state. Your assumptions are not thoughts floating in the void. They are creative instructions, commands, and reality, though it may seem autonomous, is just the echo. But here's what most forget. The echo doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are, to your frequency, to the dominant truth you carry in your body when you're not trying to be spiritual or aligned or magnetic, when you're just being. When your nervous system, your inner speech, your posture, and your emotional tone all agree, not in performance, but in essence. This is where the teachings of Neville, Dispenza, and Bruce Lipton converge. Neville showed us the spiritual mechanism. Dispenza revealed the neurological technology, and Lipton grounded it in biology. Your subconscious mind, which drives 95% of your daily life, is not a mystical force. It's a programmable, living system. It records repetition. It listens to emotion. It responds to coherence. When you believe something emotionally, your chemistry changes, your biology aligns, and your reality organizes around that signal. So ask yourself, what are you training your body to believe every day? What tone does your energy whisper when you're alone, unguarded, unperforming? Because that tone, that deep emotional undercurrent, is what becomes form. And that's the real secret. Manifestation isn't about speed or volume. It's about signal stability. When the signal stops wavering, the form appears, not as a reward but as a natural consequence of inner alignment. You are not waiting for clarity. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for the universe to recognize you. The universe is you wearing 1,000 masks, and the moment you remember who you are, the one who assumes, the one who commands, the one who embodies, the masks fall. The field responds. The echo becomes form. So let your new rhythm be sacred and simple. Rewire the inner narrative. Rehearse the end state. Release the timeline. Repeat the command. not from hunger, from knowing. And if this message echoes something you've always felt, but never had words for, subscribe now. This space is where your remembrance becomes practice and your power becomes normal. Electricity doesn't hope to light the bulb. It doesn't question its worth or negotiate its purpose. It flows through a clear circuit and becomes light. You are that circuit. You are that clarity. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering that you are the power. Mastery is not about creating miracles. It's about embodying the frequency that makes miracles normal. Not someday, now, because you don't wait for power. You issue it